So I'm definitely marking this video as sponsored, but I was sent a set of these werewolf power things. I don't know exactly how to describe them, but they make some like power banks. This is a MagSafe one, and power supplies and things like that. But what interested me, somebody emailed me about this, I don't know, months ago, and it was a Kickstarter that I think is complete now. These are actually shipping, and I'll put a link. It's called the VFLEX, I think it is. I'll put a link to this stuff. It's from a little startup called Werewolf. But you'll notice that these are like DC connections. So there's a bunch of different ends. If you deal with like mini PCs and SBCs and things like that, you're going to end up with a collection of power adapters with these types of ends. And you always have the one that you don't need. So you always have like the skinnier one when you actually need the fat one. And the other problem that I have is a lot of times my power supplies will be the right connector, but it's 12 volts and it needs to be 24, or it's 12 and it needs to be 19, or whatever. And this VFLEX thing is made to be like a universal USB-C based solution for any voltage. And the way that that works is they have these little adapters. These are USB-C to this little end that they have, and that plugs into one of these guys. So I actually had a project where at home I forgot to bring home my power supply, so I couldn't finish this there. I found this on Big Clive. This is like a solder together DIY clock kit, and I wanted to put this together for some fun with 1 hertz gear, because this basically is a glorified counter. It counts up to 60, then it counts up to 60, and it counts up to 24, and has a whole clock board that you solder together yourself. So I finished this during the snow, and I couldn't turn it on. And I brought it here, and I was just going to connect it to my power supply, but I thought this is the perfect time to finally test this thing out that I've had sitting in a box here for a while. They make this adapter that goes from their little USB-C box here to just a ground and positive connection. So I can connect that into here, and to show how this works, I'm going to program this to be 5 volts. So it'll take any USB-C input and say, hey, negotiate 5 volts and give me 5 volts for this clock, which is what I think this clock is supposed to take. It says right here, yeah, 5 volts. So I'm going to do that really quick and show you how this works. It's just a little web app, and I think you can even self-host the web app. It just uses web serial to program it. You need to have a USB-C cable that's capable of passing data, and they include some of these in their kit that are good for that, but I've noticed that I've had to go back and retest all my cables because some will carry the serial connection fine, other ones don't, and that's besides all the cables that do like 100 watts or 60 watts or barely anything. So yeah, USB-C cables are annoying, but at least this is, I think, a way to make them a little bit less annoying for power delivery. So I'm just going to plug this straight into my Mac, and the little blue light comes on. And for web serial support, you have to use Chrome, or I think that Microsoft Edge might support it, or any Chrome-based browser. I can't do it in Safari, but you go to vflex.app, and it shows that I'm connected to this little guy, and it's set to 12 volts, so that would fry my clock right now. I'm going to click Modify and change this to 5 volts, save, and I think this should be fine. But yeah, that's the whole interface. There's some other stuff in here. You can have an account. I don't know what you'd need the account for. Maybe there's future functionality, but I'm just doing this as a guest, basically. But each of these devices, I guess, has its own little unique serial number. Anyway, so there we go. Let's close out of here. And before I plug this into there, let's see if this little power meter, they included a little power meter, I guess, for making sure that the things are the way they say they are. Let's make sure this power meter says 5 volts now. Yep, 5.21. So this should work now. If I take this guy, I'll have 5 volts. These only go one way. There's a little key here. So I'm going to take it and plug it in, and now we should be getting 5 volts there. I think what I'll do is I'll actually unplug this for now, just because I don't like having it plugged in while I'm connecting things together. Okay, so moment of truth. And this is just plugged into my computer. There we go. So, 2 good things that I've discovered. 1, this is working. 2, this is using less than a watt of power. And 3, apparently all of my soldering worked. This is the first time I've turned this on. So 3 things I'm happy about there, and it's kind of a cool setup. And I'm going to be testing some of their other stuff, and you might see it in some other projects that I work on. But it's extremely handy, especially for the fact that if you get one of these kits, you have all these different connections that you might need. And just having them in a little bag on my workbench is nice because it's not fun to always have to use a DC power supply to do all this stuff. Anyway, yeah, that's Level 2 Jeff for you. I'll link to these. I'm marking the video sponsored because these were sent to me, but I might order another set for home at this point. I was actually talking to Werewolf a couple days ago, and they sent over a kit for my dad to test too. So you might see these on Gearling Engineering sometime too. And you will definitely see this clock again at some point.